Hey, Scarefest fans, it's Joe Lewis again from Bonehead Weekly here with another review. Now, this is a newer movie, right? This came out just a few months ago. Finally got to see it. Well, came out before COVID. And it's one of those Bloomhouse low budget horror films. I watched Fantasy Island. And I don't know that the damn thing should be called a horror film. You ever watch something? You know it sucks. You know it's just awful. But you still kind of get into it and you're just muddling through, and then you get to the end, you're like, oh, and then it's, yeah, and then you figured it out, and then there's a little bit of a twist, and you're like, oh, okay, well, that's pretty good. That's better than what I thought it would be. And then you get to the main ending, and then it's just awful. That's this movie. That's this movie. It's got the great actor Michael Pena. I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly. He's fantastic. He's hilarious. He's in several things. Got Maggie Q. She's a great actress. Michael Rooker is in this. I just can't recommend it. So if you're old enough, if you're old like Wes and I, you remember that there actually was a show called Fantasy Island. Fantasy Island was a television show, premiered in 1977, and it starred a guy named Ricardo Montalban. Now, if you don't know who Ricardo Montalban is and you're a Star Trek fan, you're actually not a Star Trek fan. Ricardo Montalban played Khan, and he had the best chest of all time. If you've ever seen Wrath of Khan, Star Trek 2, the best Star Trek movie ever made. And he was on that show for 7 seasons. He had a little guy named Tattoo. He helped him out, and they gave fantasies to everyone. And then they rebooted it many, many years later. And that time it starred someone named Malcolm McDowell, who's been to Scarefest before. It's directed by a guy named Jeff Wadlow, and I hadn't heard of him. I looked him up, and I was like, oh. He made a horrible slasher film in the 90s called Cry Wolf, if you've ever seen it, or early 2000s. I don't remember when. And one of the worst sequels of all time, Kick-Ass 2. Kick-Ass is a fantastic movie, and Kick-Ass 2 is a horrible movie. The only thing good about it is Jim Carrey. He made that sequel. And I was like, oh, well, this is par for the course. It's a little different. They try to make it, instead of everybody's dreams come true, it's everyone's nightmares come true. It's basically like the Monkey's Paw. You ever read the Monkey's Paw? It's like you get a wish, but the wish ain't quite what you want. They made Fantasy Island into the Monkey's Paw. I just summed it up for you. You're welcome. I saved you an hour and 45 minutes. Now, it's not god awful. Just, I don't really care about anybody. It had a couple of twists and turns that I liked. Michael Rooker is in it for maybe 10 minutes. I love Rooker. Michael Rooker stabbed me with a sword once at Lexington Comic Con. Look up the video. Lexington Comic Con, Michael Rooker. About midway through, he takes someone's plastic sword and tries to stab me with it. So Fantasy Island is about the Monkey's Paw. They think that they're going to get all their fantasies are going to come true, and they do, only they're horrible. And here's a little bit of the twist. Whose fantasy are we living? They don't really use the cast. I mean, poor Michael Pena. He deserves better. He deserves better than this. It's fine for an hour and 40 minutes if you don't have to pay for it. So, Fantasy Island, not a good movie. This has been Joe Lewis, a Bonehead Weekly. I don't really know what to say. If you can look over the left-hand shoulder over here, you see that I've got a box, and it's got something called Blanton's in it. So if you guys are thinking, man, Joe is giving me so much entertainment here on this Scarefest television, I should probably get him something for Christmas. Expensive bourbon. I gave up cigars, although there's a humidor up there with still good, expensive cigars in it. Thank you, Scarefest family. Stay safe. Wear your mask.